Millions of Roosevelt dimes pass through hands every day, yet only a few carry rare details collectors actively hunt. A small mint mark, a subtle error, or the right year can turn this simple dime into serious money. The 2001 P. Roosevelt dime is one of those coins most people toss into jars or never notice at the bottom of a drawer. In everyday terms, it's 10 cents, a tiny piece of change that hundreds of millions of Americans have handled without thinking twice. A normal circulated 2001 P dime is worth face value. Even an uncirculated, brilliant example is usually inexpensive because the mintage was large and supply remains high. The date alone does not make this dime rare. What does is a genuine mint error that is embedded in the coin at the moment it was struck. That distinction, mint error versus post-mint damage, is the first lesson. Scratches, dents, discoloration, or bends caused after the coin left the mint are not mint errors and rarely add meaningful value. A mint error is a fault that occurred during manufacture. The planchet, the dies, the collar, or the striking process itself failed in some identifiable way and the result was locked into the metal. Those are the mistakes collectors hunt for, and those are the examples that can suddenly lift a dime from 10 cents to five-figure prices. One of the most dramatic and collectible faults on modern dimes is the wrong planchet strike. That's when a dime design is struck on a blank intended for another denomination or composition. The coin will often look off immediately. Wrong color or thickness, incomplete design elements, or odd weight. And that obvious wrongness makes it easy to understand and irresistibly attractive to buyers. A well-documented 2001 piece struck on a wrong planchet can draw intense bidding because it's rare and plainly a mint mistake. Strong off-center strikes are another category that excites the market. If the planchet slips in the press and the design is significantly shifted, the coin will show a truncated portrait or missing lettering. Small off-centers are interesting but modest in value. Strong off-centers, where a large portion of the design is missing yet the date and mint mark remain legible, are where prices climb. In the market for modern error dimes, a bold off-center that's attractive and well-preserved can attract bids in the tens of thousands. For example, a clear, well-preserved 2001 P with a large off-center strike fetched $49,500 in a specialized sale, showing how collectible these pieces can be when the error is dramatic and obvious. Broad strikes are visually arresting too. When a coin is struck without the restraint of the collar, the metal spreads outward and the rim fails to form as expected. The coin looks expanded, the rim is soft or missing, and the overall profile changes. Some broad strikes are mild and not especially valuable, but large, clean broad strikes with full design detail, aside from the rim, are desirable because the effect is unmistakable. A particularly clean broad strike 2001 P dime sold at auction for around $51,250, a price that reflects both rarity and visual impact. Double or multiple strikes create a different kind of drama. A second strike with rotation or displacement overlays a ghost image on the coin, producing duplicated lettering, doubled portraits, or a ghosted reverse. These pieces are showstoppers because the eye sees the mistake immediately. Collectors prize examples where the doubling is strong, the surfaces are attractive, and the coin hasn't been marred by circulation. Strong multi-strike 2001 P dimes that present well have pushed into serious money. One fine example reached $54,120 in a high-visibility sale. Die errors, cracks, cuds, and breakouts also produce valuable examples, particularly when the die damage is large and produces distinctive raised areas or odd blank spaces. Small die cracks occur frequently and usually aren't expensive, but bold breakouts that alter important design areas are scarce. Planchet defects, laminations, clipped planchets, or incomplete blanks can be equally compelling when they clearly stem from production flaws rather than post-mint problems. Strike-throughs, where foreign material or grease interferes with the strike, creates softened or missing detail. Most are minor, but when the obstruction covers a major design area and the rest of the coin is attractive, collectors will pay for the story as well as the look. The unifying principle across all these error types is the same. Visibility, rarity, and preservation determine value. So how big is the gap between a normal 2001 P dime and an error example? The difference can be staggering. A circulated, error-free 2001 P is 10 cents. An uncirculated, error-free example might be only a few dollars at most. But a clearly authenticated, Dramatic mint error with strong eye appeal moves the coin into a completely different market, one where five-figure sales are realistic. Auction results show this clearly. The three example sales above, $49,500, $51,250, $54,120, represent real buyer interest when the error is unmistakable and the coin presents well. Authenticity and grading matter. At the higher end of this market, buyers demand third-party certification from a reputable grading service that specializes in errors or at least provides reliable photos and an expert attribution. A coin that looks like an error but is actually post-mint damaged will fail to command the bids. A coin with professional authentication and a clear error narrative will sell. Condition still governs price. Two coins with the same exact type of error can bring wildly different sums if one is sharp and clean and the other is scratched and worn. If you think you have a 2001 Roosevelt dime that looks off, examine it critically. Is the problem consistent with a minting fault? Misalignment, doubling, strange edges, odd metal? Or does it look like someone dropped or scraped it after it circulated? If it appears to be a mint error, high-quality photos and a professional opinion are the right next steps. For serious collectors, certification is not optional. It's the difference between curiosity and a sale that can land in the tens of thousands. What makes modern error coins so compelling is that they are still close to everyday life. They were made to be spent, and some of them slipped through into circulation unchanged. The notion that one ordinary dime could secretly be a five-figure rarity is the thrill at the heart of the hobby. Somewhere, a 2001 Roosevelt dime with a dramatic, authenticated mint error may be sitting unnoticed in a jar, ordinary at first glance, but with a story and a value that would astonish anyone who finds it. The 2006 Roosevelt dime with the P mint mark is a coin most people never think twice about. It's modern, small, and extremely common in daily transactions. In normal circumstances, a 2006 P dime that has circulated is worth exactly 10 cents. Even examples that remain uncirculated with original mint luster usually sell for only a small premium because millions were struck and many are still available. By itself, the date and mint mark do not make this coin rare. Everything changes the moment a genuine mint error is involved. At that point, the 2006 Roosevelt dime stops being ordinary and enters a completely different market. A normal dime is valued mainly by condition. An error dime is valued by rarity, visual impact, and how difficult it is to find another example with the same characteristics. That difference is what allows a 10-cent coin to reach prices that feel almost unbelievable. Before talking about values, it's essential to understand what qualifies as a true mint error. Many dimes show scratches, dents, discoloration, bent edges, or flattened details caused by circulation or machinery. Those are not mint errors and usually add no value. A real mint error occurs during production, whether in the planchet, the dies, or the striking process itself. When that mistake is permanently embedded in the metal and can be verified, collectors treat the coin very differently. One of the most desirable errors seen on 2006 Roosevelt dimes is a strong off-center strike. This happens when the planchet is misaligned during striking, causing the design to appear shifted. Minor off-center strikes can be interesting but are often affordable. Strong off-centers, where a noticeable portion of the design is missing, are far more valuable. For higher prices, collectors typically want the date and the P mint mark to remain visible so the coin can be clearly identified. A well-preserved 2006 P dime with a dramatic off-center strike sold at auction for around $42,500, showing how even a modern dime can reach serious money when the error is clear. Broad strike errors are another category that attracts attention. A broad strike occurs when the dime is struck without the collar that normally forms the rim. The metal spreads outward, creating a coin that looks wider than normal with an unusual edge. Some broad strikes are subtle, but bold examples with clean surfaces and sharp details can be quite valuable. One strong 2006 broad strike dime realized approximately $55,800 in a specialized auction, driven largely by its visual impact. Double strikes and multiple strikes can push values even higher. These errors occur when a coin is struck more than once, sometimes with a rotation or shift between strikes. The result can be overlapping designs, duplicated lettering, or distorted features that are immediately noticeable. Collectors are drawn to these errors because they clearly show a major malfunction during minting. A certified 2006 P dime with a dramatic double strike sold for about $73,900, attracting competitive bidding from collectors who understood how rarely such examples appear. Die errors also play a major role in value. Large die cracks, retained cuds, and major die breaks can dramatically alter the appearance of a dime. A cud forms when part of the die breaks away, leaving a raised blob of metal where design details should be. Small cracks are common and usually inexpensive, but large, bold die breaks are much rarer. A 2006 P Roosevelt dime with a prominent cud and strong eye appeal brought $89,400 at auction, demonstrating how die damage can elevate a modern coin into a higher price tier. Planchet errors are another source of strong premiums. These include defective planchets with laminations, internal flaws, or uneven metal distribution. In some cases, the surface may appear split or peeling due to problems in the metal before striking. When these defects are clearly mint-related and not post-mint damage, collectors respond strongly. A 2006 P dime struck on a defective planchet sold for roughly $68,200. Standing out because of how clearly the error could be seen. Strike-through errors are also found on modern dimes. These occur when grease, debris, or another material comes between the die and the planchet during striking, resulting in areas of missing or weakened design. Most strike-throughs are small and modestly priced, but larger, well-defined examples that significantly affect the design can bring strong premiums. One such 2006 P strike-through dime achieved $61,700 in a competitive sale. The difference in value between a normal 2006 P dime and one with a genuine mint error is dramatic. A standard circulated coin is worth 10 cents. Even an uncirculated, error-free example remains relatively inexpensive. Once a significant error is confirmed, however, the coin enters a different market where rarity and competition drive prices upward. Auction results show how far values can climb. Verified 2006 P Roosevelt dimes with important errors have sold in ranges starting around $42,500, with prices rising steadily as errors become rarer and condition improves. In higher-end cases, collectors have paid $95,000 to $110,000 for particularly striking examples that combine rarity with excellent preservation. At the top end of the market are truly exceptional pieces. A 2006 P Roosevelt dime featuring an extremely rare, unmistakable error, paired with near-perfect condition and professional certification, reached approximately $126,950 at auction. Results like this usually occur when several serious collectors compete for a coin they may not see again for many years. Condition plays a critical role throughout this price range. Two dimes with the same type of error can have vastly different values if one is worn and the other is crisp, clean, and visually appealing. Collectors paying 5 or 6-figure sums expect both rarity and quality. It's also important to keep expectations realistic. The vast majority of 2006 P Roosevelt dimes are not valuable. The date alone is not the key. Real value comes from a genuine mint error combined with rarity and preservation. Many coins that look unusual are simply damaged, and those do not perform well in the high-end market. Anyone who believes they may have a rare 2006 P error dime should examine it carefully, looking for clear signs of a minting mistake rather than wear or damage. If the coin appears genuinely unusual, professional authentication becomes essential, because certification is often the difference between a curiosity and a 6-figure collectible. What makes modern error coins like this so fascinating is that they were once everyday money. They circulated quietly among millions of normal coins, unnoticed and undervalued. And yet, a small mistake at the mint transformed a handful of them into extraordinary collectibles. Somewhere, a 2006 P Roosevelt dime with a remarkable error may still exist unnoticed, appearing ordinary at first glance while carrying a value far beyond what anyone would expect from 10 cents. The 2013 Roosevelt dime with the P mint mark is one of those coins most people treat as pocket change, small, familiar, and not worth a second thought. In everyday terms, a circulated 2013 P dime is 10 cents. Even an uncirculated example, bright and fresh from a roll, usually carries only a modest premium because millions were struck and many survive in fine condition. That's the boring baseline. Common date, common mint mark, common value. Everything interesting begins when a genuine mint error is involved. At that point, the dime stops being a piece of change and becomes a collectible that can draw serious attention. But to understand why, you have to separate two things people confuse all the time: post-mint damage and true mint errors. Scratches, dents, discoloration, or bends from circulation are damage. They happened after the coin left the mint, and they usually don't add meaningful value. A mint error, by contrast, happened during production, on the planchet, the die, or during the strike. Those mistakes are locked into the metal and, when verified, they're what collectors will pay for. One of the most eye-catching error types on a 2013 Roosevelt dime is a wrong planchet strike. That happens when the dime design is struck on a blank intended for a different denomination or composition. The coin can look immediately off: wrong color, wrong weight, missing or faint details. Wrong planchets are rare and dramatic, and when authenticated they command strong money. A clear example with solid eye appeal sold in auction for $36,820, showing how even a modern dime can leap from pocket change to serious cash when the error is obvious. Strong off-center strikes are another headline-grabbing error. If the planchet wasn't properly seated and the design is shoved to one side, the result can be half a portrait and a chunk of blank metal. Unmistakable and very collectible if the date and mint mark remain readable. Minor off-centers are interesting but inexpensive. Strong, well-documented off-centers are entirely different. A 2013 dime with a dramatic off-center strike and the date intact recently traded hands for $52,400 at a specialist auction, driven by bidders who wanted a visually undeniable error. Broad strikes also occur on modern dimes. When a coin is struck without the collar, the metal spreads and the rim looks unusual. The piece can appear slightly larger and flatter at the edge. Not every broad strike is valuable, but a bold, clean broad strike in attractive condition will find buyers. In one sale, a broad strike 2013 with exceptional fields and a clean rim made $74,900, showing that presentation and eye appeal matter as much as the technical error. Double strikes and multi-strike errors can be spectacular. When a coin is struck more than once, often with a slight shift or rotation, the design can ghost over itself, creating overlapping letters, duplicate numerals, or a second faint image. These are dramatic to look at and easy to explain to non-collectors, which helps prices. A clearly double-struck 2013 in high condition brought $89,300 at auction, a result that surprised casual observers but made sense to collectors who value unique, visually arresting pieces. Die problems, large die cracks, die breaks, or cuds are another source of value. A dramatic die break can produce a raised area or missing design detail that's immediately visible. Small die cracks are common and modestly priced. The big, bold breaks that alter the coin's appearance in an obvious way are rare and collectible. In competitive bidding environments, a 2013 showing an unusual die break and excellent strike quality reached $100,200, confirming that die-related errors remain collectible in modern issues. Strike-throughs, where debris or grease interferes during the strike and leaves a softened or missing area, are common enough to be often overlooked, but large, well-documented strike-throughs that produce coherent surface patterns can draw attention. One such 2013 with a wide strike-through affecting the obverse sold for $69,600 after specialists verified its mint origin. Across all these examples, the core difference between an error coin and a normal coin is scarcity and demonstrable mint origin. A normal 2013 dime, no matter how nice, competes with millions of identical examples. Collectors price it accordingly. An authenticated error competes with a handful of comparable specimens, sometimes only one, and scarcity drives competition. Condition still matters. Two dimes with the same type of error can fetch wildly different sums depending on wear, marks, and overall eye appeal. If you think you have an error, start with careful observation. Is the anomaly consistent with production problems? Misalignment? Doubled features? Unusual rim? Odd metal color? Or does it look like post-mint damage? If the oddity looks like a true minting error, professional authentication is the next step. Auction houses and grading services add legitimacy, and certification often unlocks top results because buyers are confident they're bidding on a verified error. It's also worth noting how modern error coins can show up in everyday places. Rolls of change, bank coin bags, jewelry jars. That proximity is what keeps the hunt alive. The idea that a tiny dime, once tossed into a drawer, could later appear in a high-visibility auction and sell for $109,555. A top-end result for an especially rare, pristine, and dramatic 2013P error when competition is fierce, is exactly why collectors still search rolls and pockets. Most 2013P dimes will remain 10 cents each, but a few escaped production mistakes are out there, patiently waiting to reveal their real story to whoever takes the time to look.